not tea.
Now, more fallout surrounding Bill Cosby's plan to host these town halls on sexual assault and how to avoid being accused of it.
Cosby's sex offense case ended last week in a mistrial. Women's groups are now blasting the town halls as outrageous. We've heard some describe them as disgusting. And the attorney who represented accusers, Gloria Allred, called them offensive and dismissed them as a publicity stunt.
This is a very transparent and slick effort, potentially, by the Cosby defense team or its supporters in order to try to confuse the public, to try to suggest and advance the theme that Mr. Cosby has been falsely accused. But that's not what the jury in the first trial found. They didn't acquit him, nor did they convict him. There's a mistrial. There was a deadlock. He's going to be tried again. And most women underreport rape and sexual assault.
I spoke with Linda Kirkpatrick, who claims Cosby drugged and assaulted her back in 1981. She's furious over the idea of Cosby himself hosting these town halls, even compared him to a convicted murderer who notoriously killed and ate his victims.
Only 2% of women that claim to have been raped are false accusations, 2%. 70% of perpetrators are known to the victims. It could be a family member, a neighbor, or a hello friend. To victimize, what were we wearing, what did we think was going to happen. Women have a right to drive, we have a right to vote, we have a right to wear whatever we want to wear, and we have a right not to be raped.
She actually had compared him to Jeffrey Dahmer, saying that Bill Cosby going on a tour about sexual assault is like Jeffrey Dahmer giving somebody cooking lessons, so to speak. So two of Bill Cosby's publicists are joining us now, Ebony Benson, Andrew Wyatt. We appreciate you both being here. Ebony, wanted to start with you. Strong words from one of the women accusing Bill Cosby, obviously, of sexual assault. What is your reaction to what Linda Kirkpatrick had to say?
I think Ms. Kirkpatrick is entitled to have her opinion about this issue. But first, I just want to be clear, the town hall meetings are not about sexual assault. I will repeat, these town hall meetings are not about sexual assault. This went way beyond a comment made from an interview by my colleague a couple days ago. When we initially talked about the town hall meetings, it was about restoration of legacy. Much to what Mrs. Cosby spoke on in her statement is the sensationalism brought on by the media. This is another example of that. To take something that was meant to talk about the restoration of this man's legacy that was destroyed by the media before he even had a chance to step into the courtroom, that's what this is about. This is about education. This is about teaching that the revolution begins in the home. We also said that if people wanted to ask Mr. Cosby about his situation, that he would speak on it because it is an open panel discussion, but within whatever parameters his legal team has set for him.
Okay, so Ebony, just so we understand this, what you're saying is the intention is not necessarily to educate people about sexual assault.
The intention is not about sexual assault at all.
It is to restore his legacy.
Absolutely.
It is to revive Bill Cosby's image. Is that right?
It is about continuing on with what Mr. Cosby started 50 years ago when he began in the entertainment business, which is importance of community, importance of education.
Okay, so when you, Andrew, say that this is going to be an educational town hall, what are you going to be educating the audience about?
This town hall is about the restoration of legacy.
Ebony, I'm sorry, I wanted to give Andrew a chance to speak.
Okay.
Thanks. No, that's okay. I know sometimes it's hard. Andrew, go ahead.
Good morning, Christine.
Good morning.
It's about the restoration of legacy, as Ebony spoke on, and also Mr. Cosby's mantra has always been the revolution is in the home, not blaming yourself as becoming a victim. Education has been his key to success, and his speech throughout the years, talking about personal development, talking about cleaning up your neighborhoods, asking for safe passage, and creating relationships in the community with the police department and gang members to try and clean up the community. It has nothing to do with sexual assault. I think the media took it up on themselves to turn it into a sexual assault conversation, because what happened a question was asked, what happens if Mr. Cosby receives a question about his criminal case and about sexual assault? Would he be able to answer those?
But surely you know that he's going to be asked about those questions, because as I understand it, you're going to be taking these town halls to possibly 5 to 7 stops in cities like Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia. It's happening sometime in July, and you are taking questions from that audience. So you would expect that audience to ask him questions about what's in the news right now, particularly since there is going to be another trial, most likely.
Well,
yes.
Well, look, I don't. First of all, I think it's not going to be another trial. I think Kevin Steele, the district attorney, you know, he ran a Willie Horton style campaign saying, if you elect me, I will bring Bill Cosby to justice, after the former DA Bruce Castor 12 years ago told Mr. Cosby he would never be criminally charged. If you were at the courtroom, Mr. Cosby has always said, I do not want anyone to proclaim my innocence or guilt. I want them to come to the courtroom to see and hear the truth. And that's what happened. You saw the inconsistencies in Ms. Constant's statement, and also you see now inconsistencies with the jurors. The jurors are saying when we first got in there, we had a full acquittal for Mr. Cosby. And now you have jurors saying that it was 7 to 5, 5 to 7 in favor of Mr. Cosby, and that's why they had 2 deadlocks.
There are a lot of different. There was one juror who said it was 10 to 2, 10 who wanted to convict, 2 who would not. And this juror came out and said, listen, we believed what Andrea Constant had to say. We believed what happened, but we didn't understand the charges and the verbiage of those charges and how we were supposed to proceed. So definitely,
but Christine,
there's no doubt
Christine,
that there was some confusion in that jury room. But when we're talking about, I want to listen real quickly here to some sound about sexual assault. Let's listen.
We'll talk to young people, because this is bigger than Bill Cosby. You know, this issue can affect any young person, especially young athletes of today, and they need to know what they're facing when they're hanging out and partying, when they're doing certain things that they shouldn't be doing, and it also affects, you know, married men.
So that was you, Andrew, talking to a local TV station earlier this week. And you were saying that there was going to be a conversation about sexual assault in these town halls, Andrew.
Interview.
Go ahead.
I think if you didn't play the full interview, where she asked the question, she said, so what happens if that question comes up? How are laws changing across the country? And what I said that laws are changing across the country, where they're amending the statute of limitations, and that, you know, people do need to be educated on the new laws that are changing. So
is that what you're talking about when you're talking about this being an educational tour?
That's where the confusion came in, that the tour is about that versus people in this country in general needing to be educated on these laws. That's where the confusion is coming in.
Okay, but let's listen here. I want to actually read a portion of the deposition that was used in court against Mr. Cosby, because again, there is no doubt that he is going to be asked about this, because this is what's happening right now in these headlines. He admits that he gave women quaaludes, that these were women he wanted to have sex with. When you know that you're going to go into a situation with an audience who is going to ask about sexual assault, is he the right messenger to talk about that issue? It's going to come up. I don't
think we can project what the audience will ask, especially when we are coming in there to talk about restoring his legacy. If these questions are brought up, he can speak on his personal experience, and that's simply what we've been saying.
So, Andrew, who do you expect is going to fill the seats of these audiences? Who are you expecting to be in these audiences?
Christine, you brought up a deposition that he did at his own free will. He agreed to do the deposition, and if you explored the entire deposition, one of the women in the deposition, if you read her deposition, asked him for quaaludes, do you have it, and then he provided them. Now, that was a deposition talking about what took place in 1976, when that was the culture of the time. If you go and talk to any artist or any person who was in that era, that was the culture. Quaaludes were called disco biscuits. You cannot juxtapose Quaaludes with him giving someone Benadryl. And I think that's what CNN has done a great job of. When this thing first started with these alleged accusers, you guys went and ran with it and took it in solid depositions and Quaaludes and tried to juxtapose the
and
two.
Didn't get any
and
facts.
That was cleared up in the courtroom.
Absolutely. And if you guys were there present, all of those things were cleared up.
Okay, all right. Can you understand, however, why this seems so insensitive to people? We've got advocacy groups, support groups who are saying this is victim blaming. How is he going to explain sexual assault without it seeming like it's victim blaming?
Again, I think it is important for the media, people in your position with your platform, to distinguish facts from sensationalism.
Okay.
I have given facts throughout this interview that this is not about sexual assault. So there shouldn't be any outrage or outcries about town hall meetings discussing the restoration of legacy and bettering our community.
So was this his idea to have this town hall that would revive his image and his status among people who may see him differently because of all the accusations that have come up?
Christine,
whose idea was it for these town halls?
Christine, we received after, we did not get the acquittal what we want, but we got what we needed, and there was a mistrial. After that, we received, it was hundreds and hundreds of supporters outside that courtroom. When we got back to our offices and our phones were ringing off the hook, hundreds of calls we received from civic organizations, church groups, saying we want Mr. Cosby to come out and speak to us about education. We want him to come out here and talk to our young people. I understand that you might be trying to make a headline and sensationalize a headline. That's not the case. The case is to talk about education, self-development, personal development, cleaning up the community. I'm pretty sure questions are going to come at him. We will vet those questions, and if he can answer those questions about his personal experience, he will do so within the parameters of how he can answer based on what his lawyers give him the guidance of. But to make the headline and keep trying to make the headline
about
and say
sexual assault,
it has nothing to do with that.
Okay, but in all due respect, your answer on that local TV station then confused a lot of people about what the intention was for
and that's
this,
why we're here. That is why we are here.
And I understand
that.
That's why
we are in this position
and
in order to be able to clear up any misunderstandings and have people understand that that is not our intent. And the further it is pushed that is our intent, that refers back to Mrs. Cosby's statement about the sensationalism.
So the intention of this town hall tour is going to be to revive his image in the public. We appreciate it so much. Ebony Benson, Andrew Wyatt, we thank you for being here.
Thank you.